overcoming fears. In response to a comment, I'm going to say, overcoming fears. So, I was not scared of going to Afghanistan to die. Myself and my friends should have known better by the time we were going. Now there's a difference in where some people are prepared for it, some aren't. And the weird thing that's going to sound odd is yes, I got yelled at in the old days and even in recent times in the army. And I think I want to explain it this way, is that I felt any of the yelling was reasonable, and the worst part about it is I had my sergeant during basic training he said something once. Well, he actually yelled at me once, and that one time stuck with me. And that told me, he didn't say the words, but what he told me is the only time it's reasonable to yell at somebody is when somebody's life is in danger. So the scenario was, I had the machine gun, my machine gun was jammed, I had a hard time fixing the jam, and my friends' lives depended on my machine gun. So my sergeant yelled at me that one time, the only time he yelled at me. Others did, all of it was reasonable, but when he yelled at me when my machine gun was jammed, what that told me, the underlying message I heard, he didn't say the words, but what I heard was the only time it's acceptable to yell at somebody is when someone's life is in danger. So I'm going to sound real strange now and say one of my favorite quotes that I come up with myself. My quote is, "You can shoot at me, but don't yell at me." As weird as that sounds, I'm okay with getting shot at. That's the job. But my job is not to get yelled at. And so the only time it's acceptable to yell at somebody is when someone's life is in danger. Is how I took that. And so I still believe that today. And so I'm not scared to walk into bullets. That's my job. I don't want to die. I don't want to walk into bullets. But I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with getting yelled at. And I'm okay with screaming at others if someone's life is in danger. So, more on overcoming fears of the public. So, many years after, about 10 or more years, 10 to 12 years after my tour in Afghanistan, I got to be schizophrenic. And by that point, I was scared of everybody, anyone, anywhere, anytime. And especially scared to go outside, and I was especially scared to walk into buildings or stores, and especially scared of cashiers or tellers, my best friends and family. Now, I overcame that by studying Chris Voss, master negotiator, on how to have difficult conversations. Now, somebody brought up some good points. on how to build confidence or get more comfortable in social environments. And so I want to address some of those points. I made some notes, and now you see I got room for improvement in my notes. So first point, again, now I'm going to be harsh. I'm always going to warn somebody before they feel attacked. And here I'm going to say a comment was made that about smiling and nodding. Instead, the better thing in every situation, it's always best to diffuse negative emotions. Always say what it looks like the other person is feeling of their negative emotions. If they look mad, say it, and overemphasize. The benefit of diffusing the negative emotions is 9 times stronger than labeling the positive emotions. So that's one way, one important thing. And so now on smiling, now this I learned from Chris Voss on diffusing the negative emotions. So the next point I'm going to make on smiling and nodding is actually from, I like to call them, I like to describe them as neurologist super geek, Ian Robertson. Ian talks about faking it until you make it. So even if you don't have a genuine smile, it's important to fake smile. So, and then if you have a genuine smile, then that's also positive and beneficial. Now let's not forget the single most important thing the majority are not aware, may not be aware, is the importance of labeling those negative emotions. It's 9 times more powerful to label negative emotions. Looks like you're having a bad day. Looks like you're exhausted. Smells exhausting. But the smell, it puts a comedy twist to it. But it's important to label those negative emotions. If somebody doesn't have the ability to have a genuine smile, it is important to have a fake smile, faking it until you make it. I don't know how to expand on faking it until you make it, except to see Ian Robertson or his book on the winner effect. I think the best summary is where he gives the example of Mike Tyson with when Mike Tyson come out of jail, he practiced. He did some sparring, and his first match was set with a guaranteed win. I don't remember how many seconds the guy lasted, but it was either 20 seconds or 80 seconds. That was one of the shortest boxing matches in history. And it was set on purpose against an opponent who was guaranteed to lose. What it does is it feeds all the good neurochemicals, and but more than that, it opens dopamine receptors. So your brain might be flooding with dopamine, but only a portion of it might be absorbed because the dopamine receptors are closed. And by faking it until you make it with guaranteed wins, and the benefit of smiling, even a fake smile, is it feeds the good chemicals. And I don't have to smile for me to benefit of the good neurochemicals. If I can see or hear, we can hear somebody smiling over the phone. That feeds all the good neurochemicals in my brain. So now, of course, it's best if it is a genuine smile. It's just easier. It's not forced, and a fake smile maybe should be renamed or reworded, because it's a lot like just choosing to take a deep breath. The reason I say that is I've recently started, months ago now, practicing laughing at myself, specifically to make myself smarter. That's another important benefit of smiling and the good neurochemicals, is it makes us smarter. So when I would forget something, I would laugh at myself and make myself smarter, and I would remember what it is I'd forgotten. And I see it, I think of it much like choosing to take a deep breath to help myself relax. Laughing at myself makes myself smarter and helps me remember points I was forgetting to talk about. So now on nodding, it's similar effect with nodding. Just acknowledging. You don't even have to smile at them. Just acknowledging somebody feeds all the good neurochemicals. And now this is going to sound weird. I've been studying Ian Robertson for many years. At least 2 or more years. At least 2 years I've been studying Robertson, and just days ago I learned something new from Robertson. He says, if the worst case scenario, if none of the eyes meet, there's been tests where people in passing would not look at each other, and they had a negative effect. They did not feel connected. If one of the eyes connected looked at the other person, the person looked at felt connected, even if They did not look back. That means, another way to explain that, if one person looked down, didn't look up to acknowledge or look at the other person, they felt connected if the other person looked at them. That sounds weird. So, now of course, best case scenario is both people look at each other and acknowledge them. So what I'm trying to say here is it's not just about me looking at other people, acknowledging them. It's also about other people looking at me, acknowledging me, makes me feel connected. And another point is the city challenge. Ian Robertson talks about on TED Talks. He's from Trinity College, Dublin. And I think it was Trinity College put on the TED Talks for Robertson to talk about his city challenge. I think he called it the Perfect Cities. And in that, he talks about some of these points. Now, I have to apologize. I've got more bad news. I'm going to be difficult. I'm sorry. When somebody is severely ill, like some of the worst schizophrenics or similar severe injuries, people tend to run away in the opposite direction, specifically for self-preservation. It's like, and there's studies explaining how we can smell other people. Men and women choose mating partners by smelling for what's it called? Not our DNA, but how our health, and not just our health, but our immune system. And the brain processes between 10 million and 400 billion bits per second. That's 400 up to 400 billion bits per second. On average, about 20 million. So what happens, of course, we don't think of processing 20 million bits per second on average. But what the brain is looking for is things like what's it called? Our immune system, for one that's different than our own. And so that's how crazy things are. And so to me, having been severely ill, I've seen and heard and felt and smelled people running away from me because they could see that I was severely ill. So smiling will always work in those situations. Even if you're choosing to walk away, if you walk away with a smile, looking at them, acknowledging them, will make them feel better. And so now importance of smiling is so extremely important. I talked about how if we can hear a smile over the phone, and if we see a smile, it makes our brain smile. That's actually responsible for mirror neurons. That's best explained by I like to call it reciprocity, where our behavior and actions are reciprocal. And that's a choice. We can choose to reciprocate, or we can choose the important thing, sounds like, might be to stay curious. So, and I say that because if we smile at somebody, their brain is smiling. That's mirrored because of the mirror neurons. And the best example of the mirror neurons in effect is the hiccups. Hiccups are contagious. Yawning is contagious. Smiling, laughing is contagious. So, so is smiling. And it's because of the mirror neurons. Now, where was I going with this train of thought? Right, so now, if I smile at somebody who's severely ill and I look at them, acknowledge them, that makes them feel better, even if they're angry. And I might choose to walk away, though their anger will also negatively affect you or me. And it's a choice to choose to reciprocate with anger. Instead, it sounds like the best solution may be to stay curious and to continue, and maybe smiling might not be appropriate depending on the context. Usually, smiling would normally be appropriate. So, if somebody gets mad, the mirror neurons will affect your brain in the same way as yawning is contagious. Unless you choose to stay curious, and you can take deep breaths. Deep breaths and smiling will also help you stay curious. And it's really, even without smiling, even without taking a deep breath, staying curious is a choice. Now, I think, now my last point, and again I'm going to be really harsh. I'm so sorry to say, I've had a lot of people telling me I just have to read the Bible. I just have to talk to God. While in fact, they were not curious to understand that I could not read. While I was actually walking in circles, talking to myself, I had people telling me I just have to read the Bible. When I could not read when I did not know my name, when I did not know my date of birth. I was told I just have to choose to read. And that about ends my points I wanted to make. And not quite. I'll end by talking about ending on a positive note. That's how I'm going to end. Specifically because, so this might be another point, is many people believe and practice and hold to their deepest beliefs to always start with a positive sandwich, a negative in the middle, before ending with a positive. Often called the old sandwich method. And people write emails that way. And I promised I'd be harsh. I'm gonna say the old sandwich method should never be used. There's a slight, small difference where Chris Voss, master negotiator, I keep talking about it, and he saved my life, and he's discovered how to talk to the survival brain, and that's why I warn you before I say anything difficult. Exactly what Chris says to do. There's lots of different ways, though. Usually shorter is better. And so what happens is you're starting with a positive by warning somebody. What that is you're empathetic to the other person, concerned that it's going to land softly. That's the difference. So it's not the old sandwich method of writing a sentence or a paragraph, or saying a sentence or a paragraph of all the positives. Instead, apologize, say the bad news, and then end on a good note. Another way to say that is what Chris says to emphasize the significance. He says he'd write emails, and then he would, all the good stuff he'd start with, he would take it all out, he would copy it, cut it, and then paste it at the bottom. Put all the good stuff at the bottom in the end of an email. And the same with the conversation. And he often quotes Oprah Winfrey. Oprah talked about show guests would in a limo and out in a limo. And no matter how things went, Oprah always tried to make sure that everybody was always welcome back or happy to continue the conversation, and that's what Chris Voss practiced in hostage negotiations. And so what else can I say on ending on a positive note? No, I'm laughing at myself on purpose, specifically to help me think. And I love that just the thought of laughing at myself makes me laugh at myself. And so what else can I say about ending on a positive note? Here's something to think about. All the good neurochemicals, ending on a positive note, makes people up to 30% smarter. And on the adverse effect, stress makes us, adrenaline makes us 30% dumber. So, is it crazy? It might be best to not play yo-yo with people's emotions. And 75% of the brain is dedicated to fear of loss, embarrassing fear of loss. And so the amygdala completely on the right and half the amygdala on the left is dedicated to fear of loss. And so it seems like the brain is really focused on negatives, trying to look out for negatives, trying to keep us alive. And so to me it sounds crazy that we should maybe change our habits and think of getting rid of the negatives first. Get them out of the way, let the brain relax, and then end on a positive note, make them smarter by up to 30%.